It is a beautiful night. Very beautiful. Hmm? I am so often preoccupied, I think the stranger thing would be if I wasn't. No. It's nothing bad this time. There's just something that I feel I should have shared with you by now. Something more of me. Something more of my past. Mm-hmm. You have asked me before about how I came to be this. It's not a pleasant tale. If you don't want to hear it right now, I completely understand. It's waited this long. As you wish. I tend to keep retellings of my turning brief for a number of reasons. For simplicity's sake, for one. Personal information invites personal connections, and personal connections invite personal complications. And I can rarely stand complications in my line of work. Not just for my own sake, but for the sake of the other person as well. I keep the story close to my vest for myself as well. For my peace. It took a long time to find some measure of peace with what had happened. When I open that box, I don't always get to say it when I can close it again. And when so much of my life can feel like it's outside of my control, I don't enjoy feeling out of control within my own heart. And it does just that. I don't say any of that to try to guilt you for having asked in the past, Treasure. Not at all. And I'm sorry if it did. I wanted to explain why I've held it this long. It's not a question of trust. You have my trust, all of it. So much has changed. So much has been in turmoil. I couldn't afford to slip, not even for a second. I had no power to calm the storm without, so I certainly couldn't let another brew within at the same time, or it could have meant disaster. But things have calmed a bit as of late, as have I. I suppose a peek under the box's lid couldn't hurt. I'm afraid the story has to start more or less at the beginning, if we're to really look at it from all sides. My human life was often unpleasant. Magic can do incredible things, but fixing a broken family dynamic is not one of them. I'm afraid the unempowered world doesn't hold exclusive rights to filial harm. My father was no stranger to alcohol, and my sister and I were no strangers to the anger it brought out in him. I'm sure my mother bore the brunt of it as well, while she was still around. But she took her own life when I was quite young. Dana was a few years older than me. She moved out as soon as she was old enough to find work. She promised that as soon as she had things sorted, as soon as she had a flat and a little money saved up, that I could move in with her and get away from him. She'd only been gone 2 weeks when she went missing. The investigators gave up the search after little more than a few questions to the neighbors. And meanwhile, my father had given up on her as soon as she stepped out the door. But I didn't. I didn't believe that she would have just run away. Even someone as stubborn as him could have seen that that didn't make any sense. If he'd had any thought to open his eyes at all. But he didn't. I grew up. I moved out. He finally drank himself to death, and I tried to pick up the years-old trail to find out what had happened to Dana. If you've ever heard Vincent or Samuel make reference to my abilities as a tracker, that's where I learned them. That's why I learned them. Not at first, no. The trail was beyond cold. I made inquiries. I tried to put pressure on the empowered and unempowered law enforcement alike, but without much success. Somehow, I already knew she was dead. I just wanted to know how. Why? Was someone responsible? Had it been an accident? I got my answers eventually. Years went by in that awful city. I was not doing well, to say the least. In my pursuit of answers, I had fallen in with an unsavory crowd and picked up some of their unsavory habits. I told myself I was just playing the part to earn their trust, to ingratiate myself so I could start asking the hard questions. And I'm sure that was true, in part. At first. I came to know the head of a group of vampires in the area. No, house would be far too dignified a word for that crew. His name was Felix. He promised me information. I believed him. And he was honest about that. Dana was dead. She had run afoul of a roving band of vampires looking for magical blood. The neighborhood that she'd been able to afford with what little she had. It wasn't good. And they killed her. I wanted to find them. Felix said most of them were already dead, that was how he knew about it. It was his territory. They had trespassed. He killed them. It's the vampire way. Dana had been drained dry before he ever got there. Her body was just part of the cleanup. Covert, adhered to even by some of our most vile. But one had gotten away, the leader, and Felix offered to help me hunt him. It started small. Offhanded comments about needing a vampire's strength to beat a vampire. Explanations of how the strength in the blood worked. I knew what he was getting at. But I told him I didn't want to be one of them. I didn't need it. I was a freelancer. And I was damn good. And he seemed to accept that. We tracked the other vampire down. The fight was a brutal one, but we succeeded in the end. My powers had run dry. It had taken everything I had. So Felix saw his chance. Little did I know this had been an audition of sorts. I had proven how capable a fighter I was, and helped kill Felix's biggest competition at the same time. I was too exhausted to resist. He turned me, made me his progeny, bound me to his every invocation. The man I had killed had nothing to do with Dana's death. He was just a powerful upstart that Felix wanted gone. The real killers had all died that night. The story of the lone survivor was a farce he'd invented to test me. And thus began a life under his heel. Constant invocations. Abject cruelty for the slightest offense. My fellow progeny and I reduced to little more than a mindless enclave at his beck and call, doling out whatever pain he ordered us to. He went on a spree, turning more and more people and binding them to his will. The thrill of irrefutable command over others sent him into a kind of bloodlust. He had never been good, but by the end, he had become something completely unrecognizable. It was years of that. But he made a vital mistake. He turned someone that enough people in power actually cared about. Justice had been agonizingly slow to arrive, but once it did, it acted swiftly. He was summarily executed, and with his death, we were all free. It's possible the department planned to offer some kind of support to all of us. I didn't stay to find out. I ran. And eventually washed up on William's proverbial shores. My feelings towards him grow more complicated with each passing day, but I will never forget what he did for me in the wake of all of that. I had a home for the first time in decades. I had support. I was given the means to relearn what I could of my magic. I was trusted, elevated, and used. I don't know what to think. But I do know this. Amidst all the other feelings, I'm happy. That's more than I've been able to say in a very, very long time. And you are the biggest part of that treasure. You've shown me kindness and patience, and I'm grateful to you and for you. No, I'm all right. Somehow it hurt less telling it this time. It's been a long time since I told anyone. Maybe time really has done its work. Or maybe it's the company with which I shared it. Let's do something. Anything. Something fun. Something with some levity. Telling you, it feels like a weight lifted. I want to feel that lightness tonight. With you. Yes. That sounds wonderful.